The mainstream media will tell you that Donald Trump's approval rating is dipping, but according to my own aggregate, Donald Trump is actually still about tied in his favorable at about 49% nationally, whereas RCP currently has him at just about a 45% national approval rating. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics. Hit the like button and subscribe if you want more content just like this. The president's approval rating is not dropping like crazy like you see in this aggregate where you have, minus 10, minus 14, minus 12, minus 13. This is very interesting because, this narrative of, the tariffs and all this stuff has been coming up with, oh, he's actually tanking the economy and this and that. And I will say, yes, his favorables did go down from the beginning of the term, but even RCP underestimates how much he was actually up in the beginning. In the beginning, he kind of was at like a net 10 favorable instead of like a 6 net favorable. And when you actually look through this aggregate, you're going to see that he's actually still net positive, and we only include pollsters who were super accurate in the 2024 election and people that were not, blinded by the mainstream media narrative. We barely have any pollsters that had Harris up 4 points in August. Like, it's just not, we're not including any of those people. That's why our aggregate is different, and we provide the real data in all these situations. I mean, we could even look at Trump's first term. This is what his approval rating actually was. I mean, he was net plus 12 at the beginning and he dropped fairly quick. And he's been at a steady point where he was at like 48% in 2018. In the 2018 midterms, he was at about a 40, something percent, 48% nationwide, which is why Republicans were still able to get like 45, 46%. If he was in the low numbers, he would have gotten the Republicans would have gotten crushed if he was actually at 40% nationwide. And you even look here after he kind of dropped and then he picked up a slightly, he's never really been net favorable in the 2020 cycle. He did become net favorable at some point in September, and even at a point in November, he was actually at about 49% in the election, but Biden was able to overcome that in the actual day-to-day matchup because Biden's favorable was at about 53, 54%. So Biden had a net 4 to 5 point advantage against Donald Trump in favorables in the election. So it didn't matter that Trump's favorable number was at 49%. Biden was at about 53, 54. And so that's how you would have predicted the 4.5 point win that Biden got, in the election. And even when you look at Biden's approval rating here, we actually included Biden's approval rating from January 21st of 2021 until January 1st of this year, or until January 18th. And you see that he was net favorable, but he kind of went up in 2021. He was hovering at above 50%, and you had, he's at a 60% favorable rating. Biden was never at a 60% favorable rating nationwide, 55%. It was never true. His real favorable in the beginning of 2021 was more like, 50, 51, 52. That's where he actually was. And then of course he dropped off after August, which tracks with all the other aggregates that you have out there. And then in 2022, he dropped to minus 18. So there was a point where he dropped fairly low. And there's even a point where he was below 40% in his favorables. But you keep going here and you see that, even in 2022, when you look at the midterms in 2022, he was at about 43%, 44% favorable rating, and the Democrats still outperformed him, which is what typically happened with Kamala Harris in the 2024 election. A lot of the down ballot Democrats ended up doing better than she did. And so that's very interesting to see that pattern had continued. And then in 2023, his favorable numbers did go up and he was poised to beat Trump, and then his favorables just continued to fall. And then heading into 2024, there was a point where he was at a 40% favorable rating in May. So it's and by the time November came around, November 4th, he was about 43%. Okay, and Trump's favorable at the time probably would have been at 48, 49 in 2024, which is what he got in the popular vote, and he would have had like a 5 to 6 point advantage over Biden in the national popular vote, which is what I had been saying was going to happen with Gold Crown Politics pretty much the entire time. And so we included Biden's favorable to show. We have all of the polls included here, and you even see like Trump's favorable now is basically tied. And even when we look at this Substack article I just published, you know, RCP has a -7.1 favorable rating for the president, and you see his favorable ratings at about 45% to 52% unfavorable. And, you know, a lot of, you know, CBS, ABC News posts, you know, NBC, CNN, New York Times polls indicate that Trump's favorables are in the tank, when in reality, those are the same pollsters that were following the narrative that Harris was actually going to beat Trump by 5 to 6 points in the national popular vote. And we see here, according to my aggregate, Trump is actually still at about 49%, which is the vote share that he got in the 2024 election. And a lot of his policies that he wants to implement this time are a lot more popular than they were last time in his first term. So it wouldn't make sense for his approval rating to drop if he won on the tariffs. He won on them. Yes, there's going to be a subsect of people that don't approve of him, but he ain't at 45%. He's not at majority disapproval nationwide. Something like what I have in my aggregate is a lot more accurate, and all we're doing is just including the honest pollsters that don't fall for mainstream media narratives and that were very accurate in 2024. And so all I want to say with this video is Donald Trump's favorables are not dropping like the polling is actually indicating as of right now. Like, I mean, if you were to really look, like, let's look at New York Times / Siena, right? -12. Okay. Let's look at their 2024 polling. I mean, they had it as a tie, okay? They had it as a tie, but like, let's look back at some earlier polls in the cycle. Let's look for New York Times. Oh, wow, Harris +3, Trump at 46%. Oh, wow, that's amazing. Let's keep going back. New York Times, they had it as a tie in September. New York Times again, they had a Trump +1 at some point. Their polling was all over the place. Then here, let's keep going back here. I don't know why it's taking so long. New York Times, another Trump +1 in July. So, but even like, if we look at like CNN, if we look for a CNN poll in the 2024 cycle, you're not going to find one for a while because they didn't want to post a poll after a long time. I mean, yeah, they had Harris up 1. You see here, you know, let's look for another CNN poll. I don't know why it's taking so long for one to come up. They had a Trump +3 back in July, but that was expected. I mean, a lot of polls had that, you know, at the time. But the point I'm trying to make here, and even like, you know, ABC News / Washington Post and CBS News, like, let's look at CBS. If we were to look at CBS, I mean, they had Harris up 1, Harris up 3, Harris up 4 points in the popular vote, Harris up 3 points, Harris up 1. Like, they just had her up the entire cycle, and they are telling me that Trump is down 10 points in favorable rating? Like, this does not make any sense. Even ABC News / Washington Post, like, if we were to even look at that, I mean, look at the Harris +4 in September. Like, that's ridiculous. That is an absolutely ridiculous poll. They came out with a Harris +4 twice in August. And then ABC News Washington Post had a Harris +2 back in the beginning of July, which is just crazy to me. That's insane. That was ridiculous to me too. And then you had Susquehanna having her up 15. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. But, you know, the whole point is that they really didn't have Trump up in a lot of polling. The accurate pollsters were the ones that were really actually carrying him over to an extent and barely had him up in the aggregate, really. And so this is the point. This aggregate sucks because they have all of the other pollsters that don't report honestly. My aggregate is significantly better, and it actually uses the real pollsters who were accurate in 2024 and don't fall for any mainstream media narratives. And so if you guys did enjoy this, make sure to hit the like button and to see, you know, if you want to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next video.